Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our legislative briefing on innovation. Now, this is our last of 4 briefings of 2018, and it's a collaboration between AARP Pennsylvania, Southwestern Pennsylvania Partnership for Aging, and Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh. And we just so appreciate you braving the weather, braving the cold, and being here today. My name is Laura Poskin, and I'm the Director of Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh. I am 35. We really like to age drop around here, so just, share your age today. And I live in a co-op community called Chatham Village on Mount Washington. That'll be semi-relevant to the conversation today. So today we're going to be talking about age-friendly innovation. And innovation is one of 3 focus areas in our action plan, which was accepted by the World Health Organization and AARP around this time last year. And here's how we describe it in the action plan. We envision a region that's relentlessly pushing for progress. It's committed to affording each resident the opportunity to age where and how they choose. We honor promising solutions, and we test brand new ideas that open doors to businesses, workplaces, training opportunities, and apartment listings. We all can benefit from advancements in technology and design, and we can all see what's on the horizon. So as we all know, Google, Facebook, Duolingo, Uber, and not Amazon, we're okay with that, all have offices in Pittsburgh, along with countless tech companies that are staffed by grads from our stellar universities. Today's tech boom is really a part of our narrative. And we see promise in technology, certainly, but we also see promise in brand new ideas. So the age-friendly movement is about making our region more inclusive and respectful of every generation. So innovation must be by and for people of all ages and abilities. So thanks for joining us today. We'll be welcoming 2 more speakers right up here, and then we're going to meet some of the people who are bringing the age-friendly movement to life. Now, it's my pleasure to hand it off to my colleague in all of this, Jen Blatz, the Associate State Director of Community Outreach for AARP Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. So I'm here to introduce our elected officials, but first I really want to acknowledge the work of all of my volunteers who are in this room. Some of them are wearing red shirts, some are not. So if you could just stand up or wave, raise. Thank you. A lot of people don't know how much of my work and AARP's work is really driven by volunteers. So we're really happy to see so many other faces as well, but I really want to thank them. This has been a very busy year for Age Friendly, and I've just been thrilled with how everybody has really jumped in and rolled up their sleeves, so thank you. And I especially want to acknowledge Mary Ann Raymer, who has been our lead volunteer on all of this Age Friendly work, so thank you. So because of Pennsylvania society, I'm told, a lot of our electeds are actually already out of town, but I really want to thank Councilman Tom Baker. Where are you? County Councilman Tom Baker is here. Thank you for being here. And he decided to sit in the rear part of the room. We didn't send him back there. And where is City Councilwoman Erica Strasburger? I know she's here. Great. Thank you for being here. Great. And then Andrea Stanford is here representing the county executive. Andrea, great. And Andrea and I are actually working together on the Complete Count Committee with the county and the census, so we're really happy to have you here. Tracy Royston is here representing county, I wanted to say controller, yes, Chelsea Wagner, thank you. And last but of course not least, and a woman who probably doesn't need a lot of introductions, Valerie McDonald Roberts, who's here representing the mayor's office. So again, thank you all so much for being here, and this has really been an exceptionally fun partnership. Our fearless leader here has an infectious amount of energy, which is probably why a lot of you are here in this room. So thank you. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Paul Winkler, and I'm 62 and 11/12ths, so I'm coming up, little kids are, everything counts. I live in Oakmont, and I'm a longtime board member with Southwestern Pennsylvania Partnership for Aging, what we call SWPA. And I've actually been part of SWPA since the very beginning, 29 years ago, so I was a young person in the room back then. We have more than 300 members that represent over 1 million older adults across 10 counties of southwestern Pennsylvania. So SWPA wants to make our region a better place to grow up and grow old, and that's why we brought the age-friendly movement to Allegheny County and Pittsburgh. And this work builds on many years of progress by organizations in the field of aging and outside the field, and that's really significant. We want to first extend a special thanks to Hillman Foundations. Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh is made possible through generous funding from the Mary Hillman Jennings Foundation. We also want to thank AARP Pennsylvania, our partner in this series of legislative briefings. And with Jen and Marianne and AARP Pennsylvania team, we are proud to say that we've now convened more than 275 residents, including 76 elected officials or their staffers. So it's been really a great collaboration. And by the way, United Way of Allegheny County, or Southwestern Pennsylvania now, has been a big partner with us as well. So in my day job, I'm president and CEO of Presbyterian Senior Care Network, and we're a regional continuum of senior living and care communities across 10 counties of western Pennsylvania. Two of our core values are around innovation and collaboration, and that's important in responding to the needs and preferences of our growing older population. And we share those values with SWPA. SWPA's mission speaks to enhancing the quality of life of seniors across our region. The World Health Organization Age-Friendly Cities model is about creating livable communities for everyone, and Laura alluded to this, people of all ages and all abilities. So innovation and collaboration go hand in hand, and we are so blessed to have a really extraordinary collaborative spirit here in Pittsburgh and southwestern Pennsylvania. So think about our region's demographics. For Allegheny County specifically, between 2015 and 2030, our 65-plus population will grow by 40%. Between 2030 and 2045, our 85-plus age group will grow by 75%. So this is our future. This is also our country's future. So given our demographics, we believe that we have an opportunity and a responsibility to lead the way. And that way is through innovation. So about 15 years ago, a book came out by an author by the name of Franz Johansson called The Medici Effect. And in that book, he says, when you step into an intersection of fields, disciplines, or cultures, you can combine existing concepts into a large number of extraordinary new ideas, and he calls that the Medici Effect. Of course, the Medicis were bankers in Florence, Italy, but they funded creators from a wide range of disciplines: sculptors, scientists, poets, philosophers, painters, and architects. They then found each other and learned from one another and broke down barriers between disciplines and cultures, creating a new world based on new ideas that it became known as the Renaissance. So we too are creating a Medici Effect. Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh is bringing together individuals and teams and organizations across different disciplines and cultures and finding places where they connect, intersections, creating great synergies. Perhaps we have the making of a third Pittsburgh Renaissance in our future. Perhaps our third age, Pittsburgh's golden years. I personally have been engaged in the age-friendly housing work group, and we are thrilled to have one of our members, Stephanie Daines, here with us today. And she's a professor of architecture and urban design at Carnegie Mellon University, and she's leading a fascinating co-housing initiative based on her research and interest in designing places where there's an intergenerational focus to support community. So we have an architect, We also have artists, philosophers, scientists, and poets that you will hear about. So on behalf of SWIPA, thanks again to the Mary Hillman Jennings Foundation and to our co-host, AARP Pennsylvania, and thank you all so much for joining us in this journey. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Laura.
Thank you so much, Paul. It is now my pleasure to introduce Scott Wolovich, who will lead our conversations today. So Scott is the founder of Lively Pittsburgh, one of Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh's key partners today and for several years. In 2016, Lively Pittsburgh led Aging Your Way workshops in 7 neighborhoods across Allegheny County. Participants of all ages were challenged to dream up projects to make their community better places to grow old. In total, 39 ideas were generated, ranging from multicultural potlucks to memoir writing classes, you name it. The common thread, the innovations were developed by residents themselves, and we know that they're the real experts. So, Scott, it is all yours.
All right, thanks, Laura. So it's great to see everyone here. I wanted to share just a little bit about my personal journey into this. Paul talked a little bit about the amazing collaborative spirit that we have with this age-friendly movement, and that's really what has sustained it, and it's really what has brought this as far as it has. I've been actually in the aging space for 30 plus years. I was a young athlete who had torn my knees and knew at the age of 16 I wanted to be a physical therapist. I was the kid who would rather sit at the table with my great aunts and uncles and listen to them tell stories. I found that more interesting than my peers often. So when I really think about this movement, I'm honored to be here, and thank you, Laura, for having me. So before we get into this next part of the program here, we're actually going to hear from folks who are on the ground in our communities and have some conversation about their experiences. The word innovation to me, I thought was something that I wanted to just share some thoughts on. In our society and in our hyper-connected world, words themselves can take on a life of their own sometimes. Innovation is one of those things that has been captured by the media. It's been captured by a lot of communities, and innovation as a word, I think, has come to mean technology. It's artificial intelligence. It's all the great things that are driving a lot of opportunity here in the region. But what I really like to do when I start to see words take on a meaning of their own and people giving words power is to really deconstruct them and come back to the root of that word. Innovation actually is based on the Latin word innovatus, which has actually been around for 470 years. And the root of that word really is in creating something new. It's in renewal. So really, if you think of the word innovation, let's not give it more power than it needs. Innovation really can be everything that we're doing in making ourselves new and approaching things with new solutions. You're going to hear some really creative approaches to innovative, age-friendly initiatives that are happening in the region today. My background, actually, currently I work as, most of my work may be known through my nonprofit New Sun Rising. We do community development work, supporting nonprofits as well as social enterprises in 43 different neighborhoods throughout the county, actually getting into Beaver County and some other areas now as well. We really pride ourselves on doing work that is from the ground up. So this idea, again, that innovation can come from anywhere. And often we're waiting for the experts to tell us what to do. And what we've really found through New Sun Rising and what's been infused into our work with Lively and the Age Friendly initiative is that often our experts are the people in the community. It's the people with the learned experiences. We often don't see our communities as the experts, but when we shift our mind and allow that space to unfold and allow our residents and our people who are living through the things that we're trying to solve, when we honor them as the experts and we create the space for them to bring solutions forward, a couple really amazing things happen. One, you actually get a better solution. The person you're trying to solve is actually use their challenges and their experience to inform the solution. The second thing that we've done really effectively is to actually help the people who are being affected also become a part of the solution themselves. So we know that these big social challenges that we're facing, when you think about aging, for those of you who have been here through a number of these, we've talked about housing, we've talked about transportation. Today we're going to be talking about some other very big challenges. These are social issues that no one person, organization, or entity can solve. We need government, we need nonprofits, we need businesses, and we need residents. We need people themselves that are pulling in the same direction. So this idea of innovation from the ground up is something that I hope you'll see in the thread today. So with that, again, I'm excited to be here as the founder of Lively Pittsburgh. We have a motto that we've adopted, and Susan and Ted, can you raise your hands real quick? These are two of my other co-conspirators with the Lively team, leading a lot of the community-based programming. And our motto, which we take very, very much to heart, and if somebody's not doing this, we will call them out on it, is that we live by the motto of having serious fun. So we know this work can be heavy. We know this work can take a lot of energy, but we like to have a good time doing it, and that's something that we all can remind ourselves. So last spring, Laura had mentioned we've been a part of this initiative actually since prior to Age Friendly, when we were still just getting out into communities and having listening sessions and these Aging Your Way workshops and finding out, what does aging in place mean to people and what's important to them? What are their challenges? Fast forward to this past spring, and we actually were fortunate enough through the grant with the Hillman Foundation to have our first ever age-friendly challenge. And what we did was we went out into communities and we asked people to bring their solutions forward. Much as you would see that technology have a demo day where they would bring their apps, we asked community members, what are your projects? What are your solutions? And anyone could bring these forward. In East Liberty or Highland Park at the Union Project, we had our own version of a demo day where residents and community leaders brought their ideas. It was a beautiful mix of both mentoring and the projects themselves, building relationships and supporting their ideas. And we actually had $10,000 to give away. So at the end of this demo day, we invested in these projects. We were able to give them awards, and then we actually followed them for a few months and further developed their projects and created some additional strategic opportunities for them. We had a showcase, which the Councilwoman, you had stopped by for a while. Was really, really amazing to see the diversity of innovation. And we had everything from a project called See Me at the Center. So this is actually a technology platform that takes any device, so your iPhone, your tablet, and turns it into an instrument. So they went into senior centers. They worked with older adults who also invited their children and grandchildren, and they had intergenerational symphonies of people that were actually using their digital devices to create music together. A really interesting kind of digital and analog way to connect. We had the project Generations at the Gardens. We had in the north side at the Children's Museum, where they partnered with Gwen's Girls to actually create an intergenerational garden that was planted together, and they worked through a lot of things together, again, between the older adults and younger folks. And Digital Bridges worked in Hazelwood and did some learning experiences around technology literacy and how to navigate safely. So with that, today we're going to actually hear from 3 great examples of age-friendly innovation that's happening in the region. We're going to hear from county residents, neighbors, and as Paul mentioned, we've got a wide variety here of poets and artists and scientists and everything in between, and they're going to share what really brings these projects to life. So I would ask our first group to come up, and that's the Dementia Friends. And while they're getting seated here, a little background on Dementia Friends. So with regards to innovation, the Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh initiative really champions inclusion for all. And providing innovative support for older adults.
Thank you.
There you go. Sure. And their care partners really allows people to live safe, engaged lives in their communities. Dementia Friends is leading the way in raising awareness about dementia and empowering those impacted by this disease. It aims to give people an understanding of dementia and the small things they can do every day to make a difference. A lot of education, a lot of awareness raising, and a lot of training. In a relatively short time, Dementia Friends Pennsylvania has really made some amazing progress. They recently became one of only 18 states to join in May of this year. Since joining in May, Dementia Friends Pennsylvania has already trained over 260 dementia friends across the state in an effort to increase understanding of dementia and facing the challenges associated with the disease. And more than 35 Dementia Friends champions have been equipped with the tools to host Dementia Friends campaigns, so it's kind of a train the trainer. With us today are some of the people who have been working to provide these innovative educational opportunities. So if you could join me in welcoming them to... Stacy and Annalise are both statewide co-coordinators for Dementia Friendly Pennsylvania. So I see a bit that you both have extensive history kind of working in aging and working in healthcare. If you could maybe each share a little bit about what in your professional experience kind of drew you to your age-friendly work.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy. First of all, thank you, Laura and Jen, for including us in this and letting us be some innovators here. I have about 22 years working in the aging field. My background is in occupational therapy, so I mostly have always worked with adults, and I really found through my practice that when you came across a person living with dementia, typically it was someone potentially, whether from the community or someone that was transferred to a hospital from a nursing facility or a residential facility. And no one in the hospitals really knew and understood how to take care of these individuals and how to partner with them and make their experience, you know, as positive as it should be. And so I've always had a passion for working with adults as well as helping people who are living with dementia really feel supported in their communities.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annalise Perry, and like Stacy, I had a majority of my professional experience working with seniors. So I was in the home and community-based sector, and then I was a nursing home administrator. But really, for me, my passion involving individuals living with dementia was more personal. So my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and my grandmother had vascular dementia. So for me, it was kind of a natural trajectory to go into this field and really be able to give back and support the community and others who are going through some of the similar issues that myself and my family had faced when caring for our loved ones.
Great. And Elise, if you could just continue with that a bit and share with us, what are some of the common misconceptions about people who are living with dementia?
So I think if some of the common misconceptions, if I would ask all of you right now to really close your eyes, and when I say the word dementia, what is the first word that comes to your mind? You can yell them out. Old, just memory loss, isolating. What are some of the emotions that are attached to the word dementia? Scary, it's sad, it's lonely. So really with Dementia Friends, we try to change that misconception or the stigma and the isolation that often comes with dementia. So we do that by discussing 5 key messages in our information session, and they really built around the common misconceptions. So I would say some of the common misconceptions is that it's a normal part of aging. It is not a normal part of aging, and that it is more than memory loss. So it goes just beyond not being able to remember things, and it really impacts your entire activities of daily living.
Great. And Stacy, if you could share maybe, I know this, the program is really based on training and education and practical advice. Are there some tips that are part of the training that you might be able to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. We talk a lot about really when you're out in the community or working, really treating people with dignity and respect. So oftentimes, you know, you'll hear a story where maybe a family member or a friend is visiting the person that's living with dementia, and instead of talking to the person, you talk to the family member. Or, oh, well, how's Annalise doing today? Well, I should ask Annalise. I should really be respectful to what's going on with her. Maybe she can't answer, as she might once or want to, but at least I'm giving her a chance. Other things that you can think about is being patient and supportive. So oftentimes our brains all move very fast, and you have someone that is really working with very serious brain changes, and they don't work as quickly as maybe you do. And so you ask a question, you don't get a response immediately. What do we tend to do? Ask again, say it louder. But that doesn't help. It just really might confuse the person more. So we really talk about being patient and giving a person a few extra seconds to answer your questions. Other things like don't criticize, argue, because you're not going to win. Or using words like, do you remember? Do you know my name? An easier thing to do is, hi, I'm Stacy, and you're? Just make it very natural. Make it easy for someone and support them. Really come and when you're interacting with someone, come from the front. Make sure they see you. There's a lot of visual changes that happen to a person living with dementia, and so being respectful of them, getting to their level, and always really, putting the person first.
Yeah, that's really great. As you were talking, it kind of reminded me in my PT work of just being very human and being very direct, with people. So thank you for sharing those.
Well, the other thing I would add too is all the things I just mentioned, besides being dementia friendly, they're age friendly, and really they're everyone friendly. Yeah. So it's practices, I think everything that we, talk about in our sessions are really benefit our whole community.
Great. Real quickly before we move on, if you could share, if anyone here, we have people representing and coming from different communities, if they were wanting to bring a dementia-friendly training or program to their community, how would they get in touch? What would be that process? Is there a cost involved?
Okay, so great question. Our goal is that every Pennsylvanian become a dementia friend. We are really working with the Dementia Friendly Greater Pittsburgh, which is part of Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh, to make our community more dementia friendly. And we do this by offering free 60-minute information sessions. They are informative. There are various forms that we can do, different cultures, different age groups, and you really never know when you're going to need a friend or meet a friend. So right now, we'd ask if you're a dementia friend to hold up your signs and look around the room. These are people we've already touched.
Wonderful. Thank you. So next we'll move on to Kevin. I had heard, through the grapevine, this is the first time I've had a chance to meet Kevin, but, in the spirit of collaboration and how this movement has really connected and made partners of folks who, in the past maybe hadn't worked together. I was really excited to hear when the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust saw value in some of these movements, and I really want to hear a little bit more about, what struck you and why you really wanted to move the ball forward in bringing this into the Cultural Trust.
Absolutely. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kevin Wilkes, and I'm the CSO, or the Chief Security Officer for the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. I'm also tasked with the responsibility of managing our front of house staff, as well as our group of 300 plus volunteers that service all of our guests and patrons of the Pittsburgh Cultural District. This is a new relationship for the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. It's not the end, but it's only the beginning of our relationship with Dementia Friends. I was put in contact with Stacy by a mutual colleague of mine at the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, who said, hey, Kevin, I understand that you've recently just taken over responsibility for our front of house staff as well as our volunteers. I think in keeping with the respect and dignity of our guests and patrons, this might be a good opportunity or a good teaching and training program for you to look at in terms of bringing in and implementing with our front of house staff and our volunteers. So I reached out to Stacy. I learned a little bit more about Dementia Friends, and to me, it seemed like a perfect fit. honestly like a no-brainer. The Trust, we touch approximately 2 million visitors each and every year through our art galleries, through our festivals, through our performing arts presentations each and every year. So we have a very diverse audience. And again, we try to be as inclusive of all of our guests and all of our patrons as possible. So we just recently launched a new ambassador program for the Trust, and I thought this would be a perfect block of training for our new ambassadors who are tasked with reaching out, greeting all of our guests as they enter into our venues. And we just rolled that out this year for our first group of ambassadors. They were very receptive of this opportunity, and so far since we've launched this program with our ambassadors, we've gotten some good feedback from our guests in terms of enhancing their overall guest-centric and customer service skills with our diverse audience. And again, we just rolled it out with our ambassadors, but I hope this is just the beginning. My plan is I'd like to roll this out with other members of our front of house staff as well as our volunteers as well.
Great. And, I think for large organizations, sometimes it's hard to innovate. In the theme of the day here, it's often we see innovation and change happening with smaller groups. Yeah. So if you could just spend a little bit of time maybe sharing how that adoption happened and why ultimately was the decision made? Why was this an important thing for the Cultural Trust?
Sure, that's a great question, Scott. And you're right, innovation or change on any level can be difficult. It's almost like turning an aircraft carrier in the Allegheny River. It's tough, it's challenging, but it can be done, especially for worthwhile initiatives such as this. Again, it was just such a perfect fit because we touch so many folks in the Pittsburgh region and across the area that, again, when it's a good initiative and it's really compatible with your business plan and your business model of not only just connecting more with your diverse audience, but growing that audience as well, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. And Zita, welcome.
Thank you.
It sounds like you've been in Dormont for a while.
Yes, 50 years.
So 50 years in Dormont. Yes. And tell us a little bit about some of the, ways that you've been engaged with the community.
Well, I was a Girl Scout leader for a long time, and now my girls are all grown and have children and grandchildren, so I've moved on to others. But I am the president of a Dormont AARP chapter, and we have over 300 members, and when I was at a team meeting and Annalise and Stacy presented Dementia Friendly, I thought, wow. Well, first of all, now that I sometimes can't remember my cell phone number, I'm not getting dementia, I'm just normally aging. But there are other people who I haven't really had any contact with, but I hear from my neighbor about a niece or cousin who really is now in psychiatric care for dementia. So there's a lot of things out there that could be helpful if others knew about it. And I think that's where my role is now, is to perhaps have a session with some of the people at my meetings and say, we'd like to explore this, and so you'll know that when these people that who are starting to be forgetful, if they can find their keys and they know what they're for, they're not on dementia. But if they don't know what they're for or they lost their way, then maybe they need some help. Mm-hmm. And you can help them by being kind and remembering that they're really your grandmother, your father, whoever. So I think that's the message.
Yeah, great. So you actually went through the training, it sounds like you learned, you're sharing some of the tips. Was there anything that was part of the training that you were surprised or that you were not expecting?
Well, Stacy did this, she talked about when you have a person who has dementia and they say, and this is my my purse, or this is, I forget, she used the purse, and she said, and if the person said, well, this is my, caboodle, don't say, no, it's your purse, say, well, that's very nice, and move on, and don't fight with them about the fact that it's a purse and not a caboodle. And I thought, oh, that was like news to me. And I thought, well, and then, you have to be, and I agree, you have to be kind, and you have to remember that their thinking isn't quite like yours.
Sure.
And she said, when you talk to them, give them time to answer. So that really was a big lesson.
Great. I love the fact that it's so practical, and I'm really big on take-homes, especially in a short session like that. It's a very applicable and practical training. So thank you very much for sharing. If you can give our panelists a round of applause here from Dementia Friends. And our second group is going to be talking about innovation in digital literacy. If you could join us up here. While they're joining us, I'll give you some background. As we've heard a lot about, and I'm sure you've seen in the news, Greater Pittsburgh has become a powerful hub for technology. And as we know, technology is pervasive in every part of our life. Just as we're all aging and learning new skills along the way, technology is changing too. I'm already aging out of the technology that my 13-year-old daughter is adopting, right? It's something that's constantly changing, and the pace is fast. So Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh wants to make sure that everyone can access technology, and especially that older adults can use their technology to stay connected to the communities and the people they care about. Computer Reach is a humanitarian computer outreach program. Since 2010, they have enrolled nearly 400 older adults in their computer camps, which are 8-hour camps, which help them to gain new tech skills through Connect Home USA. Once they complete the camps, they receive the refurbished computers. And with us today are people who have helped bring Computer Reach to life, and also a tech-savvy program participant who is a testament to the power of digital literacy. So first we'll start with Dave. And Dave, if you could share a little bit, how your professional experience sort of brought the Computer Reach program and how it allowed you to help start that initiative.
My name is Dave Sevick. I'm 59 years old. We're supposed to tell her. 59 years old. I was born in East Liberty. I now live in Cranberry Township. Our warehouse, Computer Reach, is located in the East End, over inside Construction Junction. We're a tenant inside that building. We recycle about 1,000 computers a year. And we lead with digital literacy. If people take a camp, like Mary Lou did, they earn a free computer from us. So we lead with digital literacy, and we award a computer that we recycle. Yeah. Our mission is digital literacy for all.
Great. Yeah, and I love, you're not even touting this, but there's also the sustainability aspect of this, right? That you're taking, hardware that otherwise could be in landfills and actually putting them to a reuse.
If we can reuse them, we do.
Yeah.
We try to, and then the rest is recycled through companies in Pittsburgh and Greensburg, and they're recycled responsibly.
Yeah, so for someone that does this on a daily basis and is impacting so many lives, why is digital literacy so important for us? We hear that word, but what does it really mean? Why is it important for folks?
If you're not digitally literate, you're separated from the world. Whether you live in a poor community, whether you're older, live in another country, if you're not digitally literate, then you're separated from people socially, economically, multiple ways.
Great. And if you can tell us, it sounds like you're already reaching a lot of people. You're, recycling and saving a lot of computers themselves. What is on the horizon? Where do you see Computer Reach going from here?
Right now, our initiatives are with Presbyterian Senior Care. We've helped them 4 different times. They have these projects called Cyber Nooks that they've created. So in the lounges of the multiple Presbyterian Senior Care sites all over Western Pennsylvania, we have 3 or 4 computers, and the residents use those. It draws them out of the room into a public area. Yeah. We also worked with the Connect Home project across the United States with our partners in HUD and everyoneon.org to provide computers for folks in Pittsburgh as long as they took a computer literacy class from us. So basically earned a computer by taking an 8-hour class, and Jerry's one of our teachers, and Mary Lou's one of our students.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then we also deal with the immigrant and international communities too, to make sure they have computers too, so they're not separated from the rest of Pittsburgh, so they can be connected.
Wonderful. Yeah, we hear a lot about how technology is dividing us and creating more isolated experiences, and this is such a testament that with intention, it can be used to bridge and connect people. So kudos on your work. Jerry, so you're an instructor, a teacher with Computer Reach. Did you have a background in teaching before you?
Actually, I'm a software engineer by profession, but I also, during the course of my work, I've also taught classes while I was an engineer to other engineers. I've taught classes on AI, on neural networks and other forms of AI to a lot of our customers at Westinghouse. And I've been teaching Irish Gaelic for a number of years.
So what's harder to teach, older adults digital literacy or Irish Gaelic?
Irish Gaelic.
Okay. I would imagine that. You could be teaching digital literacy to anyone. You're obviously qualified to that. Why older adults and the people you're working with, how do they benefit? What impact do you see?
Okay. Well, why older adults? Because of the huge digital divide in our country. Older adults don't often have access to the technology, as well as many poor people do not have access to this technology. And what it does, it creates, basically, it isolates them to a great extent. And by having the computers there, many times they can feel that they're isolated, maybe even obsolete. Their skills might feel that their skills are obsolete, and all of a sudden, when they can get a computer, then they can have a sense of inclusion, that they now feel that they're really part of something. They can talk to their kids and their grandkids, and of course, not be at their level, but still, have input into that conversation, be able to share experiences. So that sense of inclusion, the sense of self-confidence that comes from that as well. And also, so many things in our society are done only online. If they want to get back into the workforce, many times they're blocked from that if they cannot get onto the internet, because many jobs are only accessible through the internet. Sure. So by having the computer there, they can now get back into the workforce. They can put their own experience on LinkedIn and possibly be connected to somebody who would have a position for them with their background.
Yes, I'm here a lot of instilling meaning and purpose and relevance, giving people a reason to still want to continue to reach out and be a part of what's happening. So great work. And lastly, I want to hear a bit from one of the participants here who's actually been trained. So Mary Lou is our poet.
I'm a poet.
A writer.
I'm a writer.
Yes.
I'm an artist.
And from my notes here, you at one time were fearful of computers. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Fearful of computers.
All right. So tell us a little bit about prior to taking the training with Computer Reach. What was your relationship with technology like?
I was always afraid of technology, but I have 4 adult children, and they were trying to get me involved, but it was really impossible. And so a few years ago, I took a job at a bakery, and you're making the donuts in the middle of the night, but there was a young girl that was the manager, and there are a lot of managers in the world that are very young. I think she was like 18, and she was teaching me how to use this tablet. I think it was a tablet for the to take the cash from the people and to put the order in. But it was the kind with you had to write your name with the finger, and that really, really got to me. I really couldn't stand. I couldn't stand that, but I had to learn it. So she was teaching me, and then she said, "Well, if you have any questions, if you're here alone, you can call me." So it was 5 a.m. one morning, and a customer came in, and I couldn't get from one page to the next page. And I was very frightened of this. And I kept on punching the buttons, and I couldn't get it to go. So I called the girl's number, and she didn't pick up the phone. And then I called the man who was the owner of the franchise. And I said, I don't know how to get this lady out of here and get her cash. And, you know, this computer's holding me up. And I said, can you tell me how to do it? He said, I don't know how to do it. So I was flabbergasted, but everybody was upset. The customers was upset, and so I got fired from my job. But I was too old to work anyhow. That's what I think.
So without being having had that experience and being fired from your job, you may not have met this group and pursued the training. Was that an impetus for your seeking out?
I've tried to use my smartphone, and it's smarter than me. And I can't use my smartphone very well, and it just was constant. It was constant every day. There's something with the computer. So I found out they were going to have computer classes at I live in a senior high-rise. And so I was very excited to go.
And could you briefly share maybe a couple of examples that since you've taken this training, how has your day-to-day, relationship with technology changed? Is there anything that you feel?
I don't feel depressed anymore. No, seriously, that's a serious thing. We all make jokes, but people are sad when they're alone and living alone in a senior high-rise. So this really has encouraged me to get back into things that I was so out of touch, because no matter what you do, you pick up the telephone and it's all about how do you get through this technology phone call. It's very disappointing and disheartening. So I'm encouraged now because I'm taking a step in the right direction, and I'll be taking more steps.
Congratulations. All right. So thank you all for sharing. We're going to have our third panel come up, so we appreciate you all sharing your experiences. All right, so our third group here is going to be talking about innovation in co-housing. So the Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh initiative is dedicated to exploring new housing solutions and new ways for people to connect with their neighbors. Laura had mentioned earlier she's living in a co-housing community. There's, it's something that's happening organically and sometimes more intentionally, and we're going to hear about some of those projects today. Actually started 30 years ago in Denmark, this concept of co-housing, and the idea has been steadily picking up more momentum here in the U.S. and you'll hear here in Pittsburgh as well. Today, nearly 300 well-established and newly forming communities can be found across 36 different states in the country. If you're not familiar with co-housing, you wouldn't really know it to see it. So you would be walking down the street, and it would look just like any other built environment, housing unit that you might see. Each unit is a complete home or apartment, and they typically have a shared space. So there's some sense of a communal space, but people have their own living areas, which are, typically have a dining room, kitchen, laundry room, guest apartment, things that are typical in your home. But people are choosing, they're making an intentional decision to live in a community where they're sharing that space with others, and they're co-housing. Everyone has their own independent income, their private lives, but they do collaboratively plan and manage activities and the shared space. So a very intentional decision to live in community and in relationship with others. And you can imagine why this, is something as an age-friendly community we'd be pursuing and are excited to hear more about. So here with us today are 3 Pittsburghers who are dreaming up an innovative co-housing community right here in our own backyards. So Stephanie, we've known each other for a while in different community development work, but if you could share a little bit, regarding your work with CMU and even, more of your personal interest in co-housing and maybe some of the work that you're doing right now.
My interest in co-housing comes out of believing in the importance of community. As an architect, I've always been involved in housing design for older neighborhoods particularly, but I've also been working on housing for special populations, people who have challenges like dementia or autism, or just struggle with having less money. Co-housing is such a great idea because it's an idea that we're all familiar with. It's really not an innovative technology in a sense. It's going back to what we all want, which is knowing our neighbors. And what better place to do that than in Pittsburgh? So as soon as I heard about this, which was in 1990, I was fortunate in having students to help me investigate it, but we also started meeting with other people, just putting the word out, posting up on local libraries, saying, if you're interested in knowing your neighbors in where you live, come join us on Sunday afternoon. And over the years, we've tried a couple of different locations. We were in Larimer for many years, thinking that we might have an opportunity for a project that would be close to the other revitalization going on there, and it always turns out that the land is the difficult part in Pittsburgh. So that didn't work. We had a project in Sewickley for many years. We worked on a project. We tried the Regent Square School before it was the environmental charter school. So there have been lots of ways that we've attempted to do this, and this year we've reinvigorated our group. We have 2 more of our members, Maureen and Nancy, are sitting there in the audience. But we have over 40 people now who are meeting together to make this happen. And it happens because we get together because we want to live this way. There's no organization. There is a national association with a lot of co-housing members from around the country who are very happy to help new groups get started, but it all happens because we get together and believe in this idea and believe that it can happen here.
Great. So it does sound like there's a lot of momentum and commitment and time being put into this over years. In an ideal situation, knowing the barriers that are out there, are there any particular things that you would like to say if they were unlocked, a project would be viable? You mentioned land, but are there any other, ordinances, or there zoning issues, or there, without getting into, too much detail?
Yeah. All I can say is that the primary goal that we have for finding land, as you might guess, would be a walkable location. So we're looking primarily in the East End, but not exclusively. We're looking for, it could be an existing building, although that has its own challenges, or just a small piece of property. We're really talking about fitting into a neighborhood. And so even if the property doesn't quite have the right zoning, I think we can make that happen. Just a residential area, not very big, about an acre, and we could make it happen.
Great. So we have some future residents. We had a couple point out in the audience. We have a couple here on our panel as well. Barton represents. We've had our poets, we've had our architect, we now have our engineer, and if you could share a little bit, it sounds like you have a family, and so I think the really interesting about co-housing and the larger age-friendly initiative is that age-friendly is great for all ages. When you do things that are great for older adults, it's great for younger people, it's great for families. So could you share a little bit about how your family dynamic, how you imagine this would be a good decision for you?
Yeah, I did have the good fortune to have experienced not necessarily co-housing, but other forms of intentional community living earlier in my life. Spent 2 summers living in an intentional community that was developed around creating a community that was inclusive of adults with developmental disabilities, and got a chance to just experience what living in a community is like, where everyone has the experience of being able to contribute together, and all of that being honored, regardless of what your challenges may be. So really working in cooperation as a community, both at a household level and then also as a collective of communities. I also had the great fortune of being very close to my grandparents growing up as a child. I'm not originally from Pittsburgh. I moved here in 2007 and moved away from my sort of my connection and to older generations, and it's something that I really missed from growing up. And one of the things that was really exciting about the idea of co-housing was the opportunity to really engage more directly, intentionally, and intimately with a multi-generation community, and also expose my daughter to that. And so. This model of being able to share in those experiences, not be isolated to your individual house. I mean, I love how Pittsburgh, the neighborhoods are so strong, and there are tremendous opportunities for sort of cross-pollination across generations, across cultures within Pittsburgh. But there's something that co-housing brings, just a higher level of intention and connection that really attracted us as a family.
Wonderful, thank you. And Emma, if you could. If you could share a little bit about, it sounds like you've both experienced this from a standpoint of maintenance of a home. So we all face this of, there becomes a point where there's just a lot to do, right? And it doesn't slow down as your house gets older and as we get older. But also you've started businesses that help other people that are kind of helping with maintenance. What has been your personal motivation to consider a co-housing situation?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emma Johnson, and I'm sort of the new kid on the block. This is a new concept for me, but my awareness of co-housing came at a very important time in my life. I like to say that my descriptors alone should explain to you why I would be interested in such a thing. I am retired from Chatham University, where I developed and coordinated their tutoring services for their graduate and undergraduate programs, and then moved on to experiential learning, developing in their internship program, which today is alive and well. Every student graduating from Chatham has to complete an internship. So, but I retired from Chatham 5 years ago, and I'm a 75-year-old, these are my descriptors, 75-year-old African-American female, single, with a 100-year-old house that's aging as faster than I am, and which needs constant care. I have a pre-millennial daughter who lives in another state. And so when I speak of and think of how I want to go forward from 75. She says to me, "Don't worry, Mom, I will never put you in a nursing home. You'll come to live with me." I love my daughter. She lives in another state. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh. I would like to have some hand in my quality of living going forward. And so I would like to remain in Pittsburgh. I just dread the idea of being set aside in an apartment someplace or home, waiting for my daughter and son-in-law to return from work, away from the sense of community that I'm used to. Pittsburgh is a friendly city. I'd like to be in a community where I can walk to a neighborhood store or a theater or a doctor's office. I want to commune with friends. I want to continue to be a social being. So I would like to know that someone would miss me. You know, if I plan to live alone, so I'm planning to stay independent somehow. And on my, I was asked to put my age and say what's important to me or what I believe. I'm 75. I believe that life begins at 80. And though I know that we can't always say how long we'll be here, things could change instantly. But while I still have the faculty to have some input in what happens as I continue to age, I would like to consider these alternatives. I would like to know that I am in a community of friends who will check on me, who I can have an occasional meal with, who I can plan a theater trip with, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's my interest.
Yeah, I love that your last observation, and it's something I hadn't really thought about, which is each of you are choosing to consider a co-housing situation, but the beauty of that is that you're choosing to co-house with others who have made that decision as well, right? So they're all coming, everyone's coming with a shared mindset and wanting to share that experience together. So,
and it's something that I had not considered, you know, this new concept to me and probably to many, and I think the more people hear about it, many will be interested in it.
Stephanie, is there a regular gathering, or is there a way if people wanted to learn more? Is there a way that they could get connected?
Yeah, anybody who's interested is invited to join us. We meet about every 6 weeks right now. It'll probably be a little more often, but you can ask me or any of us, and Laura can always get in touch with me. But we are welcoming anybody who'd just like to learn more about this, and anybody who participates can be part of this. There is nothing, there are no requirements or anything. It's just all about wanting to be part of a community, to both, you know, benefit from having great neighbors and also to contribute. And anybody who has that desire could really enjoy being in co-housing, and we're open to welcoming anyone to come.
Great. If you could join me in giving our guests a round of applause here. Stephanie.
Oh, okay.
And the other project leads, if you could come up, we have about 10 minutes for some Q&A. If one representative from the previous two panels. So we have time for some additional conversation. If there's anything that you heard here today that piqued your interest or you'd like to know more about, now's your time. I do think that's high. Okay. Yes.
I think the normal is very friendly community. But anyway, you say you have to have an acre. Is that what you said, an acre for co-housing? You wouldn't consider, like, we have some vacant lots. You wouldn't consider, like, how many people do you have to have in co-housing?
That's a great question, thank you. So she wanted to know why an acre of land and how many people do you really have in a co-housing community. The best number is between 20 and 30 households. So that's why you would typically look for about an acre of land. There are co-housing communities that are as small as 8, but it's a job. You know, you're not being provided with anything. You're kind of running your housing for yourself. So there are things that everybody volunteers to do, and 8 people stretches you a lot. If you get over 30, then the sense of community gets a little more complicated, and it tends to kind of break into groups. So that's a good size. There's nothing absolute about it, the size of property could vary from finding an old building in the city. In Washington, D.C., there's an old office building that's been turned into co-housing, and there are farms that are as the 100-acre farm in outside Gettysburg is. So co-housing can take lots of forms. The only thing that's constant is wanting to be a part of the community.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Who owns the building, and who is the landlord, and where does the money go to pay the rent?
Oh, good question. Who owns it? Who do you pay to live there? Most co-housing communities, you buy your own house, and you own a share of the common facilities. Some also have some rental units to reach out to people who are not in a house that they can sell, so that they don't have the same resources, but to make co-housing more affordable for other people. They can be condo, which is just another form of ownership. They can be cooperatives, which would be more familiar on the East Coast, but you pay for your own unit, and so if you own it, you get your own mortgage and you pay the bank for it. Co-housing always has a waiting list. Once it opens, once it's built, the universal thing that happens is that people are curious and come by and say, like Emma did, I didn't know this was an option, and I really never thought of how great this is. This is where people have serious fun all the time. And, that's one thing that you find in co-housing. You go there, you have a dinner together, and you say, I've never had this much fun since I was in college. And so if you have to leave, it's easy because there's a waiting list, and you open your unit to sale or rent to the next person on the waiting list, which makes it pretty easy. But
yes.
This is about the computer reach. Do you have your own geek squad to come to our house?
We get that question all the time.
Yeah.
We actually do that. I do that for Apple, actually. That's my day job. So yes, we do have people. Jerry's one of them. We have 20 teachers in our network that will do classes. Are you talking about one-to-one support? Yes, we have consultants on our team. We have several IT folks that will come to your home and give you a discount.
How do we reach you? You've got to go buy technology or something.
Yeah, computerreach.org, or you can visit our warehouse. We're inside Construction Junction on the East End. We have a public day every Friday where the public comes in, and I can just talk to you on Friday about what your needs are. By the way, Friday is a day that you can come and get free consulting. So we have people come in from all over the Western Pennsylvania on a Friday, and there's a ton of us. Jerry's one of the ones who's always there. There's a lot of engineers from Apple and Google and Uber that come to volunteer, do their public service, and you can tap into any one of those folks. Nobody will charge you any money. That's kind of the free day to come do things.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Every Friday from 9:30 to 3:30. You can sign up on our website to come in. You can pick our brains, as they say.
Yeah.
I wanted to say one thing about Jerry, who's one of our best teachers, by the way, that I didn't get a chance to say. We have this, we have 20 teachers on our staff, and we have a range of behaviors that we want that's very similar to your dementia thing. We have Mr. Rogers on one side, and then we have Sheldon Cooper on the other. So when I choose the teachers and we train them, we look for people that are more Mr. Rogers and less Sheldon Cooper for people that watch TV. So and Jerry's a good example of a great teacher who's patient, who's respectful, and allows people like Mary Lou to feel comfortable. Whereas the week before we did this, she didn't feel comfortable with computers at all. So if you come on a Friday, we'll talk to you. Help you out. Okay.
Yeah, I was nervous we were going to get through this without a Mr. Rogers reference, so thank you for, you might have all lost our Pittsburgh cards if that didn't happen. We have time for one more quick question here.
Just wondering about donations, like where do you get the computers, and do you accept donations from anywhere, or?
We do. We'd like them to be working. We don't recycle for cash. We like them to be reusable. We get most of our computers from corporations in Pittsburgh, Bear, PPG, a lot of the hospitals, a lot of school districts give us our computers, but we'll do what we call onesie-twosies if you want to bring them in on a Friday. But we prefer to have computers that actually work, that we can flip and get out to people in need. Most people that we serve are living under the poverty line, at least 200%, making less than $25,000 a year. That's the population of people we serve. A lot of immigrants, a lot of people that are older. Okay. Does that answer your question?
We have just a little bit of time. Is there anyone out there has a question for Dementia Friends? All right. Thank you.
I understand that you said that you were looking into some photo holiday
We're looking at any neighborhood from Wilkinsburg to Morningside to East Liberty to Greenfield and Hazelwood. Any neighborhood. That's not a critical question. It's just walkability. Yeah, just someplace we can get to without a car.
Did you, Linda? Yes.
I have a question for Dementia Friends. Have any banks been interested in
Oh, that's good.
That's a great question.
Funny enough as it is, my husband works for a bank, so I have been gently pushing it that way. But that is our goal really for 2019, to really expand throughout the different sectors, working in tandem, with the Dementia Friendly Greater Pittsburgh work group, trying to make as many connections. So if you know of anyone, please send them our way. We forgot to mention, you can go to our website, dementiafriendspa.org, and there is a way that you can find a session. You can type in your zip code, see where there's a session coming up in your area, and if you would like to host, we would love to come and to your organization or even to your house if you bring wine and cheese, and then we will be there.
All right. One last round of applause for our, you guys can go ahead and sit down. All right. So if you can't tell, this is why we do this work. This is a true representation of the people that are part of Age Friendly. So many people are doing Age Friendly work and don't even know it. The beautiful thing about Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh is that it provides this context, this framework that people can then plug into, where these unnatural partnerships, where all of a sudden the cultural trust is valuing and looking at how they can be more dementia friendly. There's a lot of really great collisions that happen through Age Friendly, and we're just getting started. So all of you that are interested in plugging in more, there's plenty of work to do, and we look forward to working with you. So thank you for listening to our panelists and their experiences, and we really appreciate the three groups that shared today. So I'm going to pass this off to Laura, who's going to share a little bit more about what's next.
Great job, Scott, and everybody, really, for Scott and for all of our speakers. The one piece of advice I said was just speak from the heart, and I love these sessions because we always get to hear really personal stories and why this is important to people. So thank you. And so you've heard about 3 of our projects today, and now the question is well, what do we do now with this information? So we really want everyone to mark your calendars for the city's Inclusive Innovation Summit, which is March 28th through 30th. 30th. I will not be there because that's right around my due date, but I'll be having my own Inclusive Innovation Summit. But Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh was a partner in last year's Inclusive Innovation Week, and we put on an intergenerational art making project in collaboration with the Children's Museum, which is not really a natural, you don't think of the Children's Museum as a partner for an aging related program, but we certainly did that, and we are excited to be a part of it again this year. So we have Todd Smith, and he is the Digital Community Specialist from the City of Pittsburgh's Department for Innovation and Performance. Going to tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, it's great to be invited to the Gold Room. I've never been here before. I do work across the street. You know, it's been really impressive listening to all the stories and all the work happening here in Pittsburgh. I kind of thought about this quote by Satchel Paige. It says, age is a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And I think that's kind of the spirit here in the room. And in that vein, also, innovation is a mindset. It's less about technological advancement as much as the potential for human connection. And so over there and here in the county, the whole playbook is around inclusive innovation to make sure that our tech boom that's happening here in Pittsburgh is encompassing everybody, that just like the sun shines on everybody, so does innovation. So Mayor Peduto's been really committed since day one, since taking office. Our team has done a lot of great work. One of our recipes is really cross-sector partnerships, so it's been great to be working with the age-friendly community. But last year, we had our annual Inclusive Innovation Week, so every year we've been doing this, and this will be our 4th year. And it was the first time that we got to bring in some new energy like Age-Friendly Pittsburgh. But we've also worked with Computer Reach, and we've also continued that work onward. So as our department's actually replacing computers, older computers, but functioning computers in city government, we're creating that pipeline that goes to Computer Reach to help serve underserved communities who could use those computers. So as Laura was saying, Inclusive Innovation Summit's taking place in March from the 28th to the 30th. It's going to be held downtown. It's really a great way to celebrate all the work happening. There's really not an event like this across the country. We really build this in the vision of our partners' eyes. The other thing that's really cool is that we really put inclusion on a pedestal. So the event's completely free. We provide accessible spaces. We provide childcare, and we're trying this year to subsidize transportation to make it easier for people to come to the event. So we're really proud to be involved with this work. Kudos to everybody who spoke today. This has been great progress. I can't wait to hear what happens in the next year. And I'd love to meet with anybody who'd be interested in partnering with the City for Inclusive Innovation Summit. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities. And yeah, have a good day. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, I think we can wrap it up. Please do enjoy some brownies and cookies and cheese and drinks, or take some with you when you go. One thing about AARP is we always provide a lot of food at our events, and then they wind up coming home with me, whatever's left. I obviously don't need any more. So thank you all so much for being here. We really have enjoyed this collaboration, and we'll see what happens in 2019. We'll be in touch. Thank you.